King's Dominion, a very underrated park that is home to one of the worst roller coasters that you'll ever ride. This is Anaconda, and this Aero Looper's days are numbered, and I'm going to share all of my thoughts surrounding the future of KD's Aero Looper, including when it will get removed, what could replace it, and a crazy idea of what King's Dominion should do that you need to stick around for, because I know you're going to love it. So just how big is the land that Anaconda takes up? Well, I pulled the measurements and we are looking at 4.5 acres, which really is a massive plot of land for a lot of different types of coasters. Now, while you might think 4.5 acres is not a lot of room, just remember when parks say a ride or a park takes up X amount of acres, it's always inflated. It's never that actual amount. Perfect example of this is Son of Beast. When Son of Beast was announced, they said the ride covered 12 acres, and the ride definitely does not take up or even cover 12 acres for that matter. And since Cedar Fair has owned King's Dominion, we have seen them remove 4 coasters: Hypersonic, the Hurler, Shockwave, and our beloved Volcano, which I don't know about you, I'm still not over them removing Volcano. With that said, Cedar Fair has blessed King's Dominion with 4 coasters, including the park's 3 best overall coasters in the same time span. You have Dominator, Intimidator, Twisted Timbers, and now Tumbili. And in my opinion, that's a very fair trade-off. So why does it make sense for King's Dominion to remove Anaconda? Well, the truth is, it really is that bad of a ride. Now, I will say the first half of Anaconda is not that bad, but once you get past those mid-course brake run, those transitions are just not even right. It hurts. So the setting of Anaconda is wonderful, and it's really pretty to look at, but there's so many better options King's Dominion could do on that plot of land. And the first 3 coaster types that come to mind for a potential replacement for Anaconda would have to be a B&M wing coaster, a B&M inverted coaster, or something from Mock Rides. Starting off with the wing coaster idea, it's something that Busch Gardens Williamsburg does not have. And with that park being located just about an hour away, it's very important for these parks to add standout attractions that you really can't find at the other park. Now, there is one exception to this rule, and that is if one park builds a bigger, better version of that. Hence, a full-scale B&M inverted roller coaster. Now, Banshee has done really good for Kings Island, and something along that size on this plot of land would do wonders for King's Dominion, because not only is this going to give the park another high capacity coaster, you're going to give the GP probably their favorite coaster in the park, because people love Banshee and how graceful it is, and while it's not the most intense roller coaster ever, it really is an enjoyable ride from the top of the lift until the final brake run. And I can honestly see something like this really make sense and do wonders for King's Dominion. Now, of course, you have Alpengeist at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, but that roller coaster opened up in 1997, and I'm sure Cedar Fair can make this new B&M inverted coaster at King's Dominion stand out somehow, some way. That way, they can attract a lot of people to the park, and I'm sure that's a possibility and potentially something Cedar Fair is looking at. As for the wing coaster, I'm not 100% sold on this because there's a huge caveat with this, and that is, I'm sure King's Dominion's next roller coaster will be built on the old Volcano plot of land. It almost makes too much sense not to, and I have some great ideas for what type of coaster could replace Volcano in this video here, so be sure to check it out, and you can find a link to that video in the description. But back to the wing coaster idea, and a few years back, there was blueprints leaked of a medium-sized wing coaster being built in the old Volcano plot of land, and as we know, those plans were scrapped, and now we have Tumbili, and Volcano is left untouched, that area at least. So I definitely see potential for a wing coaster. Now, not saying it's going to happen. I think this is probably the least likely of the 3 to happen. If we do get a wing coaster, maybe we get something like Thunderbird, a launched wing coaster. King's Dominion could definitely benefit from another launch roller coaster, and Thunderbird at Holiday World is by far the best wing coaster here in America. just imagine flying above the water, like launching and then going through inversions. Let's say if King's Dominion does get a wing coaster and it's not a launched one, then how about the world's largest wing coaster? This option could fill the void of having a hypercoaster at the park to pair with Intimidator 305 and maybe make this wing coaster that's over 200 feet focus more on the airtime moments, floating airtime, all the huge hills, and a few inversions over a layout that is very inversion focused. Something like that would be a really huge hit for the park, and again, just like the inverted roller coaster, I feel like a wing coaster would become the most popular ride at King's Dominion if this really happens. And lastly, before I tell you when, I predict we will be able to ride Anaconda one last time. What if King's Dominion would open up a brand new mocked roller coaster? Now, maybe this is an extreme spinner, or how about a multi-launch coaster like Copperhead Strike, maybe a little bit larger, or something that most people probably haven't thought about, why not have a mock hypercoaster? Again, King's Dominion really could benefit from a very fun-filled airtime hypercoaster that's not so intense as Intimidator 305. Because let's face it, while most of us enjoy that coaster, and I really do, it really isn't the most GP-friendly ride at the park. And just imagine pairing a hypercoaster to go along with Intimidator 305, then you have Twisted Timbers and Dominator and so forth. That's a pretty stellar coaster lineup. Now you could be wondering why I would go with a mock hyper over a B&M hyper, and the answer really is pretty simple. You can find a B&M hypercoaster, Apollo's Chariot, located at Busch Gardens. So having a mock hypercoaster would not only make the ride look different, but you also have a different rider configuration, and mock hypercoasters offer inversions as well as much better transitions and better first drops. So I really feel as if King's Dominion could go a long way with this type of design and please the general public and the thrill seekers, like the hardcore ones, all at the same time. And I think that is a win-win situation for the park. And with the success of Copperhead Strike at Carowinds, the relationship between mock rides and Cedar Fair is very, very strong, and it would not surprise me one bit if the next major roller coaster, at least one of the major coasters coming to a Cedar Fair park in 2024 or 2025, will be coming from mock rides. So again, I can see this being an extreme spinner or a massive multi-launch coaster, or definitely a hyper coaster for mock rides. I think the extreme spinner and the hyper is more likely than the multi-launch, and I also think they're a better bang for the buck for the park. So why talk about Anaconda's removal when there's no rumors or anything about the ride possibly leaving the park? And the real reason why is trends. Based on Cedar Fair trends at their other parks and the history of old aero loopers, their lifespans are not as long as, let's say, a B&M coaster. Anaconda opened in 1991, so that's going on 30 years. For comparison, Vortex at Kings Island operated from 1987 to 2019, just over 32 years. Based on those facts, I really do feel as if Anaconda has a bullseye on it as far as the next coaster removal at King's Dominion. Now, when will this happen? Again, it's really hard to pinpoint because I really feel like the next coaster is going to be located on the volcano plot of land. And I think that coaster could be coming to the park as early as 2024, but most likely 2025. And a lot can happen between now and then, which tells me that if King's Dominion would be building a new roller coaster on the Anaconda plot of land after they already opened one on the volcano plot of land, then we're probably looking at 2028 through 2030, which leads me to this. I predict that Anaconda is safe for now, and I would not start to worry about the ride getting removed until at least 2025, so maybe 2026, 2027 at the very, very latest. And one more question for you. What if King's Dominion would not only add a roller coaster to this plot of land, but also add a massive water park expansion? There are so many things that King's Dominion could do with this, but what if we would see a roller coaster take up around half this plot of land and maybe extend the layout into some other areas of the park? But as you can see here, if King's Dominion would use part of this land for a water park expansion, that could be very beneficial for new slides and attractions for the water park, plus give King's Dominion enough room to add their next major roller coaster after the one opens on the volcano plot of land. That's the beautiful thing about predictions and speculating, because you never know if you're right or wrong until it actually gets announced, but it's fun to guess, and most importantly, it's fun to use your imagination. So now that you know my thoughts, predictions, and speculation for King's Dominion as far as Anaconda goes, when do you think King's Dominion will remove Anaconda, and what type of roller coaster or ride will King's Dominion replace it with? Be sure to let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to smile today, think positive, and keep riding coasters.